Rather than starting at the pasuk and eventually getting to the tshuvas, we're going to work our way backwards. The tshuvas Chavas Yoyer, which was written by Rabbi Yissocher Frand. Who was quite ill and as a schus for tzedakah that she should get better, decided to donate a garment of hers that was embroidered with strands of gold and silver. She wanted to donate it to the Beis HaKnesses for them to use it in the shul. And this garment was a fartach. You'll see. I mean, that's a new record. We have not a minute into this year yet. So she wanted to donate I don't know Polish, but my shviger, Oleh Shalom, who was from Poland and used to spend time with us, always used to talk about her fartach. I did not know what it meant then, but now I know retroactively. Ask my, what does fartach mean? Fartach is an apron. The Volosh in Ashkenaz are shorts. What? Shirts. Okay. V'shola pi ma tasa mimenu me'il shehu levush sefer Torah. She asked, what should I donate this garment for? What should I use this apron for, this beautiful apron? Excuse me. Should we make it into the Sefer Torah mantle, the mantle that covers the Sefer Torah? Or should we make it for how you look at the shulchan, you have it's covered with a cloth. Over here on the pulpit, there's also a cloth. What should she donate it for? Better to donate the apron and make it into a Sefer Torah cover, a mantle, or she should make it into one of the kisuyim, the covers that you have over here on the Rov Shtender, the cover, you have on the shulchan, a cover. And bichlal, whether it's the right thing to do or not. So the Chavas Yoyer begins his tshuva by saying that one could in fact say that it's perhaps preferable to use it for the Sefer Torah mantle, because the Sefer Torah mantle, the thing that we cover the Sefer Torah with, is actually on the Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah is the holiest item in the entire shul, and therefore put it on the Sefer Torah rather than put it over here to cover the shulchan and the omid from which the chazan davens. Therefore, devarai mitzad goydel ha-mitzvah toiv lo lasa Ismail shutashmish kedusha dovach l'Sefer Torah. It's preferable to use it for an item that literally is on the Sefer Torah. Ma'ashein kein ha-michsos, ma'ashein kein the different coverings. Okay, it's a nice thing, it's a nice thing that the chazan's omid has a cover, that the shulchan has a cover, but that's not mamish like on the Sefer Torah. That's what one could say. Okay. Maybe say the opposite. Because this was a apron that this woman used, as a personal item, albeit it's a fancy apron and it's an apron that's embroidered with gold and silver, but after all, it's a beged chayil. It was used for a very mundane purpose. If that's the case, sagt hier an die Sendes, der Mil Dovek the Sefer Torah, Tamid Yesh G'nai L'asei Mi Dover Shekvai Nishtamish Beheged. So if I can't say that you should not use it for Sefer Torah, because it's improper to use something that was used by a private individual in the most mundane of circumstances to now make that part of the Sefer Torah. And where do I get such a svara from? as in fact the Aguda Paskins, the parents Akhemitz Rabba, Mashakosam Shom Mizbech L'Nishtamish Behedyin. And in fact, the Aguda, based on a Gemara in Menachos, says such a svara, that something that was used for private, mundane, non-holy purposes should not be used for a davar shebikdusha. Now, what does he mean that the Aguda, based on the Gemara Masechta Menachos, what does that referring to? So this is referring to the following brisa in Menachos Daf Chav Beis Amud Aleph. Tanya, Yochel ha'omer harei olai oila yovi eitzim miteich beisai. Keder shemevim nesachim miteich beisai. The Gemara says if a person wants to donate wood to the Beis Hamikdash, I would think that he could go back outside to his wood collection that he heats his home with and take some wood from there. Just like, for instance, if a person donates wine to the Beis Hamikdash, he can take it from his private stock. Talmud Loimar, so the Gemara Menachos brings a pasuk al ha'eitzim asher al ha'ish asher al ha'mizbech ma'mizbech mishal tzibur af eitzim ve'eish mishal tzibur. So the Gemara makes a drasha, no, you cannot use private wood to put on the fire, to make the fire on the mizbech, because ma mizbech mishal tzibur, just like the mizbech itself came from public funds, so the wood that's used to burn on the mizbech must come from public funds. Divrei Rabbi Yissocher Frand. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yissocher Frand that learns out from that pasuk al ha'itzim al ha'ish, that just like the mizbech has to come from public funds, so huadin the eitzei ha-mizbech, the wood that used on the mizbech must come from public funds. Rabbi Eliezer ben Shammua oimer. However, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shammua argues, and he says, "Ma mizbech shlo nishtamish b'hedyin, af eitzim ve'eish shlo nishtamish b'hedyin." Rabbi Eliezer ben Shammua says an entirely different drasha, and that drasha is that just like the mizbeach was used solely and exclusively for holy purposes, so huadin the eitzim on the mizbeach must come from holy sources and cannot come from that which was used by a private individual. Just like the mizbeach, if you want to make a barbecue, you can't do it on the mizbeach. So huadin af eitzim ve'eish lo nishtamish b'hedyin. But Mela, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shammua says that from here you see you're not allowed to use private things for holy purposes. So says the Aguda in Masechta Menachos that you see from this Gemara that you're not allowed to take things that were used by private individuals for their own private uses, specifically like an apron, and you're not allowed to make that into a davar shebikdusha. And that's how the Aguda paskins. So therefore would stand to reason that certainly this woman should not take this apron and make it into a Sefer Torah cover. She certainly should not do that. But it would even almost stand to reason that she can't even donate it all to anything in the Beis HaKnesses. Because this is what was used by yourself to donate it to a shul. So therefore says the Chavis Yoyer, in our situation, one would have to come to the conclusion that you're not allowed to use the apron, certainly not for the Sefer Torah, and maybe not even for the shulchan and oven covers.
So, we understand
so like korbanos is a special limud because they talk about this. Korbanos, animals are different because animals, they don't become, it can't be tevis things. So that's it has to come from so that's all. See, hold on. Comes the Chavis Yer and says, I argue with the Aguda. Because the Aguda Shita is based on the Shita of Rabbi Yissocher ben Shamua that learns out Ma Mizbeach, doesn't come from Mehedyan, everything else shouldn't come from Mehedyan. But says the Chavetz Yair, we paskin like the first man to Amar, Rabbi Yissocher Reb Shimon, who says Ma Mizbeach, Rabbi Yissocher Reb Shimon's lashon is Ma Mizbeach Mishal Tzibur, Afezi Mishal Tzibur. We do not paskin this whole halacha. And therefore says the Chavetz Yair, it is perfectly legitimate to go ahead and to take the apron or anything for that matter and donate it to shul, and you can use it for anything you want in the shul. Simply, it's a machlokes between Rabbi Yissocher ben Shamu and Rabbi Yissocher Reb Shimon, whether something which was used for mundane purposes by private individuals, whether that can be subsequently donated to the Beis Hamikdash. This is a machlokes hatanoim. Says the Chavetz Yair, we pass like Rabbi Yissocher Reb Shimon that doesn't hold it in this entire drasha. And he says, I'll bring you a raya from our parsha. I'll bring you a raya from parshas Vayakel. V'oi mid'omer razal shahaya Moshe Rabbeinu Mois b'maris hatzayvais ne'shasui li'etzahara v'loi omer b'nei shemishtamesh b'mehedgate. Friends, our beautiful raya from our parsha. The pasuk says by us in parshas Vayakel, Perek Lamed Ches Pasuk Ches. Vayas es kior hanacheshes ves kanoi hanacheshes b'maris hatzayvais asher tzovu pesach oil mayid. The pasuk says that the kior, the base of the kior, which was the basin from which the kohanim washed their hands every day, hands and feet every day, was made b'maris hatzayvais. The base of that kior was made out of mirrors. B'maris hatzayvais asher tzovu pesach oil mayid. So Rashi over here quotes the Chazal. What are these mirrors? Where do they get these mirrors from? Zok Rashi b'nais Yisrael hoyu b'yoden marei sharois behen kashem miskashtes. Says Rashi that these were the mirrors that the women had in their vanities, in which they used to put their makeup on using these mirrors. Va'af oisen le'iklu milahavi l'nivras hamishkat. And the women marched up to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, here are the mirrors straight from our vanities, and we want you to use this in the Beis Hamikdash. Zokt Rashi. Now we'll return to this Rashi later on in the Shira, hopefully. The Rashi is a strong lashon. Moshe Rabbeinu was repelled by this. You're going to take a mirror. Now, what does a woman use a mirror for? She uses a mirror to put on her makeup, to put on her lipstick, to put on her eyeliner, to put on her mascara, to put on all the stuff for which women pay millions of dollars for every year. So you want to use this in the Beis Hamikdash? Never your minds. This is not some mundane. The lashon of Rashi is Neshasui li'etzahara. Why do women put on makeup? They put on makeup to be attractive. Sometimes that's not the best thing in the world. Omalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zok Rashi. Rebbeinu Kol Moshe Rabbeinu Kabel Ki Elu Chaviven Alai Min HaKol. I want you to take the mirrors. Because of these mirrors, as we'll discuss in Mitzvah Hashem later, this is how Klal Yisrael became populated with children. Rashi over continues, Kishahoyu Baleim Yigain Ba'avedes Perach Hoyu Holfes Hamaliches Lehen Maichel Mishta Machila Seisan V'Nerlis Hamaris. Zok Rashi, because in Mitzrayim the men did not want to engage in the act of procreation. Because what are we bringing children into the world for? And therefore the men abstained. And the women saw that the eventuality of this is that Klal Yisrael would wither away because there wouldn't be enough, they would not replace themselves. So what did they do? They took these mirrors and they beautified themselves, and they came out to the husbands in the field, and they would give them food and drink. And the men would in fact engage in the acts of procreation, and they would become pregnant. This is the mirrors, and this is what the base of the kier was made out of. Ad kan teichen divrei Rashi. Why did Chazal say that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to reject them? Because they were used for these Yetzirah purposes. Moshe Rabbeinu should have rejected them out and say, I can't take this because this was used for hedyot. If the halacha is like Rav Eliezer ben Shamua, then anything that is used for dvar hedyot, anything that's used for private purposes, has to be rejected out of hand. So no matter what you use them for, forget that they were used for taiva, for Yetzirah, as Rashi says. Anything that's used for private purposes, it could be as innocuous as an apron, can't be used for the Beis Hamikdash. So then what does Rashi have to say? Elamai, says the Chavis Yoyer, you see from this Rashi, you see from this Chazal, that the mere fact that something was used for private purposes does not disqualify it from being used in the Beis Hamikdash. And it was because of the particular purpose of the mirrors, which Moshe Rabbeinu was not comfortable with, until the Rebbeinu Shalom explained to him, Eilu Chavivan Alai Min HaKol. So therefore, says the Chavis Yoyer, I hold the halacha that you can take anything that a person uses, be it an apron, be it a dress, be it a suit, be it whatever it is, and that thing can be donated into the Beis Hamikdash and the Beis HaKnesses, and there's nothing wrong with it. Says the Chavis Yoyer, you really want to be on the safe side, so if you change it, you alter it. I mean, you're not going to go ahead and take a Sefer Torah and you take an apron and wrap it in a Sefer Torah around it. Obviously, you're going to have to do some sewing work over here. So he says, once you go ahead and change it, then it's certainly good. But even without that, truth be told, if you wanted to take something that was used for private purposes and donate it straight like that into the Beis HaKnesses, there's no problem. And the Ra'il Davar is, because from our Rashi, from the Maras HaTzayvais, Moshe Rabbeinu's objection to the mirror was the fact that they were used for sensual purposes. But absent that, there wouldn't be a problem. I was used for private purposes. It's a dover min hahedyot, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamua holds that a dover min hahedyot can't be bought to the kodesh. Here it says we don't pass it like Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamua. Zok the Chavis Yoyer, kazuk the hate. Use the apron for whatever you like. Ad kan teichen divrei hatshuvas Chavis Yoyer, simin kuf samach aleph. The only problem, Rabbi Yisai, with this Chavis Yoyer, which is a major problem, which in fact the Chasam Sofer and Tshuva Orach Chaim Siman Mem points this out, that we do not pass like this halacha. And if anything, we pass like Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamua. Number one, the Rambam passes beforish in Perek Aleph Mehilchas Beis HaBechira, which is the halachas of the Beis Hamikdash. Ein oisim kol hakelim mitchilosan elo l'shem hakodesh. All the kelim, all the utensils in the Beis Hamikdash had to be made exclusively and originally for the purposes of the Beis Hamikdash. V'im nasu mitchilosan lehedyot, and if they were originally made for private use, private purposes, ein oisin oisan l'kovaya. You cannot use it. Which means that the Rambam paskins like Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamua. So why does the Chavis Yoyer say we paskin like Rabbi Eliezer for Reb Shimon when the Rambam himself in Hilchas Beis HaBechira seems to paskin like the other Man De'Omar? And And in fact, the Chasam Sofer uses a lotion which is hard to believe on someone like the Chavazir, that it was Ne'ela Mimenu, he forgot it, or was unaware of it. That's number one. Number two, it gets even more troubling. Because the Tshuvas Maharil was from the very, very early Achronim. And it's not an overstatement to say that most of Ashkenazic minhagim are based on the Tshuvas Maharil. The Ramah Seder quotes Maharil. The Tshuvas Maharil was also asked a similar shaila about using something for private purposes for a parshas. They wanted to take, I don't know, a bed sheet, turn it into a parshas or something like that, a tablecloth, and turn it into a parshas. So the Maharil paskins, and he says, listen to these words. That even though it is nohuk alma, standard operating procedure, that people in fact do use used garments and they put them into the Beis HaMikdash, or the Beis HaKnesses rather. They're wrong. Even though it's nohuk alma, the Welt wird azeh, people do this, it's wrong. And who told them that they're right? And when people ask me this very shaila, can we take garments or whatever it is and make them into coverings or cloths for the Beis HaKnesses? I paskin I tell them no. You buy new stuff. You don't take used garments for the Beis HaKnesses, which makes a lot of sense. Because the Beis HaKnesses is not Goodwill Industries. And therefore to go ahead and to take your old shmata, your old dress, your old tablecloth, your old whatever it is, and then make it into a parshas or a sefer Torah mantle, Zok Maharil, you shouldn't do that. Now, even though I mentioned that the Ramah normally goes like the Tshuvas Maharil, and so much of Minhagei Ashkenaz is like the Maharil, but here the Shulchan Aruch himself paskins like this Maharil. It's black on white. The Shulchan Aruch paskins in Sha'ar HaChaim, Siman Kuf Nun Gimel, Siv Chof Aleph, Ein Ligneis Me'ilim Shenishtamesh Ben Hedged Lishtam L'Tashmish Kedusha. You're not allowed to take something that was used for private purposes, private individuals, and turn it into Tashmish Kedusha. That's the Shulchan Aruch. And on top of that, the Ramah himself, in an earlier Siman Kuf Mem Zayin Sif Aleph, writes, Ein Lasais Mapais L'Sefer Torah Midvorim Yishonim Shenasu Behen Tovaracher L'Tzarech Hedyan. Black on white. You're not allowed to take old garments that were used for private individuals and turn them into Mapais L'Sefer Torah, or the mantles for the Sefer Torah. So Rabbi said that's a very, very compelling case. The Rambam doesn't hold like this. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't hold like this. The Ramah doesn't hold like this. It's only the Chavas Yor that holds like this. There's only one problem remaining, and that is the Welt. The Welt wird azeh, v'hochi nohuk alma. But the Maharil himself says the people tend to do this. Now, the people that we're not talking about, year 2000 or 2009. We're talking, 500 years ago, when people kept the Shulchan Aruch to the nth degree. So the Shulchan Aruch says not to do it. The Ramah says not to do it. The Rambam says not to do it. So what's made the Welt tut das? That the Maharil has to say, well, they're all wrong. But what's the pshat? Well, so the Mogen Avraham deals with this issue. The Mogen Avraham in Siman Kuf Mem Zayin, over there, Sif Kotan Hey, asks this very kasha. What do you do with the Rambam? What do you do with what's the pshat? That the Welt seems Hamikdash shiny. There's a difference between a Beis Hamikdash and a Beis HaKnesses, which means in spite of the fact that we all say, and it's true, that the Beis HaKnesses is a Mikdash Ma'at, that the Beis HaKnesses is a facsimile of the Beis HaKnesses is a facsimile of the Beis HaMikdash. It's a Mikdash Ma'at, it's a mini Beis HaMikdash, but there's a line over here, and the Beis HaKnesses is not the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, this whole halacha that the Rambam paskins, that the Gemara says menachos, this is by the Beis Hamikdash. By the Beis HaKnesses, you don't have to be so stringent. That's teretz number one. Teretz number two, Rabbi Yisai, v'oid lirali dafka k'may shehein osir lishtamish behen aval yimshina tzurosan v'osa mehen kli acher shori tahare hakir nasa mimaris hatzayvais. Zok the Mogen Avraham shinui kaina. That which it's usher to go and to use something that was used for private purposes and to use it in the Beis HaKnesses is if you take the thing as it is, you take that apron and you put it right over here on the Umid of the Chazan or right over there, you take it as is and you put it there. That's what the Maril does not like. That's what's usher. Or that's what the Ramah is referring to, or that's what the Shulchan Aruch is referring to. But when you go and you alter it, then there's a concept of panim chadashis bolukan. It's a different chefza. You know, in the other areas of halacha Rabbi Yisai, there is this concept of shinui. If you steal something and you change it, so you don't have to return the item itself, you only have to return its value, shinui kaina. You see, this is in other areas of halacha. The Mela writes the Mogen Avraham, dafka k'may shehein osir lishtamish behen aval imshinin tzurosan v'osim in kli acher shori daharekir nasa mimaris hatzayvus. And here Rabbi Yisai is the kicker. Zok the Mogen Avraham, and I'll bring you a raya. Because the maris hatzayvus, the mirrors from which the women that they used to make the base of the kier, how did they use that in the Beis Hamikdash? How did they use that in the Mishkan? Zok the Mogen Avraham, because obviously they took the mirrors, but they had to do big construction work to make it work, to make it fit. So they changed the whole tzura of it, so that the base of the kier was made originally out of those mirrors. But they didn't take the mirrors and glue it onto the base of the... That's not how it worked. They changed it. They did handiwork with it. And therefore, that's why you're allowed to... That's where it's... But the Raya L'Davar says, I'm proving my point. How did Moshe Rabbeinu use the Maris Hatzayvis? How did he use the mirrors for the Beis HaMikdash, for the Mishkan? The answer is he changed them. And once you change them, Panim Chadashis Bo'u L'kan. And with this Rabbi Yisai, the whole main raya of the Chavis Yoyer falls away. Because if you'll recall, what was the Chavis Yoyer's raya? The Chavis Yoyer brought a raya that you can use it. What was his raya that you could use it? Because Moshe Rabbeinu only rejected the mirrors on the grounds that they were used for sensual purposes, used for the Yetzer Hara. Why did he reject it? Because of that reason he rejected it, because it was used for private purposes. So the Mogen Avraham, not true. The fact that it was used for private purposes would not be a factor over here, because once you go ahead and you alter it, you change it, and you make different shinui to it, it's a new item. It's not called the same item that was used by the headgear. So therefore, that would not be a grounds to reject it. But Moshe Rabbeinu still felt, okay, technically speaking, halachically speaking, it's different. But do you mean to tell me that we're going to take in the Mishkan and we're going to use the mirrors for which women used for Lakashik Tesatzman, for the Yetzer Hara purposes, for sensual purposes? We're going to use that? That's why Moshe Rabbeinu rejected them. Because of the special nature of the Maras HaTzayvos. Over says the Mogen Avraham, once you change it, then that is what the Welt holds. That's what the Welt holds. That's why for Shanim Kadmoniyos, people would donate old garments to the Beis HaKnesses and they would change them into different items in the Beis HaKnesses. The Marul says you shouldn't, but what's the pshat in the people? What's the pshat in the Hochi Noach Alva? Says the Mogen Avraham, this is the pshat because they changed them. So the emes is that the El Yerabba Nor HaChaim asks a kasha on this Mogen Avraham. He says, why does the Mogen Avraham bring a raya from the Maras HaTzayvos that you see that you're allowed, as long as you change something, you're allowed to use it in the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan, and the Beshul? What did he bring a raya from Maras HaTzayvos, from the mirrors? The pasuk of Maras HaTzayvos, Rabbi said, when your Maver Sedra is in Perek Lamed Ches, pasuk Ches. But let me read to you a pasuk that is much, much earlier than that, and that is from Perek Lamed Hey, pasuk Chaf Beis. Vayavo hanoshim al hanoshim kol nedivlei v'viu chach v'nesev v'tabas v'chumaz kol kli zahav. The pasuk says they bought all these things, chach v'nesev v'chumaz. You know what these items are, Rabbi Yisai? They're jewelry. They're nose rings, they're armbands, all different types of jewelry. In fact, the El Yerabba, why does the Mogen Avraham say, I'll bring you a rye that you can use things that were used for private purposes? For the case of the Maras HaTzayvos, the Maras HaTzayvos is in Perek Lamed Ches. This is in Perek Lamed Hey. The answer is no one finds Zokti Machatzis HaShekel a teretz of this kasha. He says this is Nishkin kasha. You know why? Because when they took those nose rings, those arm rings, those other types of things, what did they do with them? They were made out of gold. You know what they did with them? They melted them down. They took the gold, they put it in a hot fire, they melted it down, and then they took that gold and they fashioned it into other things. That everybody holds as mutter. Because that's more than a shinoi. That's a totally different makeover. They're punished to changing it in Gansen. You take a nose ring, or you take a bracelet. Take a bracelet. You put it in a kiln and you melt it down. Now it becomes pure gold. And then you fashion it into a kaling. That was certainly not an issue. Even the Maril would hold of that. That's what the Mogen Avraham is trying to prove. Is if you go ahead and you take an apron, and you take that material and you sew it into a Sefer Torah mantle, you sew it into a Sefer Torah cover, where, good, it's changed, but it's certainly recognizable of the original thing. Who says that's mutter? Who says you can use that? Oh, Maras HaTzayvos. That's why the Mogen Avraham brings a right for the case of the mirrors. Because in the case of the mirrors, Einachinami, they didn't melt it down. But what did they do? They just changed it. Nevertheless, you see it's mutter. That's the Hochi Noach Alma. That's what the Machatzis HaShekel writes. Ulaniyas daiti ein raya. It's no raya from the chach, v'nez, and the chumaz, from the bracelets and the jewelry. Came into huschu. Because since they were melted in kinvari ponim chadashus bo lekan. Mashein kain lasis mi bigodim yishanim. But to take old clothes, afshem mishtana afshem lekli acher, even though it's changed, mikol makom tzuras habeged adayin olav, it still looks like the original item. Dahin tzura harishayna. Ve'iyefshe lilmoid hentero bichach v'nezim v'chumaz. You can't bring a raya from the case of the jewelry which were totally melted. I see raya, therefore the Mogen Avraham brings a raya in Maras HaTzayvos shaloi nishtanu elabeis and Maras vufayu nasikir v'lo huschul tchila beish. They weren't melted down. So therefore, Rabbi say that's how the Mogen Avram tries to be miyashiv the minig ha'olam. The minig ha'olam that in fact people would donate old clothes into the shul in spite of the fact that the Maril says you shouldn't do it. But what's the pshat in the Welt? The pshat in the Welt is because as long as you make a substantial change in it, we say panim chadashos bo lekan, and therefore it's mutter. And therefore, if in fact they took an apron and they changed it, in achinami, you can taka use it. So Rabbi say now we have three shitas that occupy the entire spectrum. The Chavis Yoyer holds that you can take any item that was used for private purposes, you can use it directly in a shul, you don't have to make any shnuyim at all. You want to take that apron and you want to put it on the shulchan, if you want to put it on the Sefer Torah, gesund deheit. That's the most liberal shita. The Maril holds absolutely not. You're never allowed to use something that was nishtamish for the head, you're allowed to use it in the Beis HaKnesset in spite of the fact that you change it. And the Mogen Avraham says the Veltz is knowing a position that's in between. Not as liberal as the Chavis Yoyer, that you're allowed to take it straight without changing it all and putting it on the Sefer Torah. Not as stringent as the Maril that says even though you change it, you're still not allowed to use it. But the middle position of that if it's changed, panim chadashos bo lekan, and you're allowed to use it. The only thing left to remain, Rabbi said, to understand is the Maril. How does the Maril deal with the Maris Hatzayvais? The Maris Hatzayvais were in fact used in the Beis HaMikdash. They were in fact used in the Mishkan. And the Maris Hatzayvais were altered, but they were still there, in a recognizable form, apparently. And according to the Maril, you're not allowed to do that. According to the Maril, chach v'nezim v'chumaz, those things because they were melted down, that's panim chadashos bo lekan. But merely altering it, changing it, the Maril says that's not sufficient. So what does the Maril do with the fact that they used the Maris Hatzayvais? It was what? That's the Moshe Rabbeinu calls that a dover mos. So there's a sefer called Pnimi Mibei Midrasha, which I saw at Teretzon. There's to this last point on the Maril, and that is that the Ramban at the end of parshas Vayakel says that the mirrors that were used to make the base of the kiyar were in fact totally melted down, which means they took the glass. Glass can be reshaped if you get it hot enough. They took the glass, they melted the glass, and they shaped out of that. They shaped the new base of the kiyar, which means in fact that just like the chach v'nezim v'chumaz were melted down, and therefore according to everybody panim chadashos bo lekan, the Maril is going to have to say that they did the same thing with the mirrors. Now, the Mogen Avram doesn't say like that. The Machas HaShal doesn't say like that. The Eliyah Rabbah doesn't say like that. They all say that they took the mirrors, they changed them, they altered them, but they didn't melt them down. But the Maril, who is the most chomer of the Shitas, will hold that in fact, like the Ramban says, that they melted the mirrors, and therefore once they melted it, it's panim chadashos bo lekan, and that was the heter for them to use the mirrors. In terms of halacha l'maisa, Rabbi Yisai, the Mogen Avram seems to say that the Welt is not noiheg like the Maharil, and that the Welt in fact uses garments that were originally used for private purposes. So as long as the person alters them and changes them and makes a shinui, makes a shinui in them, then it seems that this is what the Welt is seimich on, and in fact a davar shel chayil can in fact be used for a davar shel kodesh. As promised, Rabbi Yisai, we're going to return to that Rashi, which we quote as extensively in the halacha part of the shir, and that is, as we mentioned before, and the only reason I'm repeating this is for the benefit of those people who sometimes come a little late. Rashi over the pasuk says, but I won't go the entire thing for the benefit of the people who don't come late. Pasuk says over here that the women brought the mirrors to build the Mishkan, and they made them at the base of the kier. So Rashi over here quotes the Chazal that Moshe Rabbeinu did not want to take them, because as Rashi says, Rashi uses a very strong lashon. Not only did Moshe Rabbeinu reject them, but Moshe Rabbeinu was repelled by them. How can you use something like the mirrors, which are made for the purposes of the Yetzer Hara? They're made for sensual purposes. How can you go and you use them for the purposes of a Davar Kodesh? Omalei HaKodesh Baruch Hu Kabel Ki Elu Chaviv Alai Min HaKol. Rebbeinu Shalom said, no, fakir, take them. And Rebbeinu Shalom uses a very strong lashon. Elu Chaviv Alai Min HaKol. That of all the items that were donated to the Beis Hamikdash, these mirrors are the most dear to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Then Rashi goes on to explain, which again I will not be marich, I will not repeat, but basically Rashi says, because when the men did not want to engage in the act of procreation because they felt it was a futile situation, the women would beautify themselves with their mirrors, they would go out into the fields, they would entice the men to have relations. As a result of this, Klal Yisrael was in fact rebuilt. So therefore, by virtue of that, Rebbeinu Shalom says, Elu Chaviv Alai Min HaKol. So I saw an interesting kasha from Rav David Kviyat, one of the Rosh Yeshiva in the Mir Yeshiva. And that is that, for instance, Rabbi Yisai, he finds Taisus says many places in Shas that you don't have a machlekes in what's called smoras hafuches. You don't have one person saying black and one person saying white. When you're dealing with something in svara, I mean, you can have one says mutter, one says also, one says kosher, one says treif, but in svaras, in something that's logic, you can't have people that have diametrically opposed logical positions. Which means if this makes sense, then how can a person say diametrically the opposite? So in effect, David Kviyat asks, what happened over here to Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu says, Moshe Rabbeinu was repelled. They were repugnant to Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Elu Chaviv Alai Min HaKol. Rebbeinu Shalom says, no, these are the greatest things going. These are all the things given the Beis. This is the best. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu usually had a good sense of what Rebbeinu Shalom wants and he doesn't want. After all, he was Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu is so off base. Rebbeinu Shalom says, Chaviv Alai Min HaKol. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, disgusting, get away from me. How could that be? It's like, it's mamish at the opposite sides of the spectrum. What's the pshat? Zok there, Moshe Rabbeinu was not off base. And where Moshe Rabbeinu was coming from, it was a totally logical and understandable reaction. What Moshe Rabbeinu was missing, he was missing a yediyah that Rebbeinu Shalom had. So Moshe Rabbeinu had no way of knowing what happened there in Mitzrayim, and how the men didn't want to engage with the women, and what the women did to make that happen. That's how we can have svaras hafuchos, because Rebbeinu Shalom knew what these things were used for. And had Moshe Rabbeinu had he known that what these were used for, he would have also felt the same way. But given where Moshe Rabbeinu was coming from, a mirror to put on eyeliner, you want to use that in the Beis Hamikdash? You want to use that in the Mishkan? So Rebbeinu Shalom, Moshe, you don't know the whole story. The whole story is that the women saved Klal Yisrael with these mirrors. That the women built Klal Yisrael with these mirrors. Ve'elu chaviv alai min HaKol. You know why they're chaviv alai min HaKol? Chazal tell us b'chol levavcha that a person has to be oived Rebbeinu Shalom with b'shnei yitzrecha, with his yetzer hatayv, with his yetzer hara. Hasei darshan Chazal. A person has a yetzer hatayv, he has a yetzer hara. B'shnei yitzrecha b'chol levavcha, a double lashon. B'shnei yitzrecha lashon yetzer hatayv, yetzer hara. How do you serve the Rebbeinu Shalom with the yetzer hatayv? That's obvious. How do you serve the Rebbeinu with the Yetzer Hara? So you conquer your Yetzer Hara. You overcome your Yetzer Hara. Your Yetzer Hara says, do you do something? I'm going to subdue the Yetzer Hara. But there's a higher form, Rabbi Yisai. There's the highest form. And the highest form is to take that Yetzer Hara and turn it into a Dover Kodesh. And that's what these women did. These women played on something that is in fact the Yetzer Hara. Taivas Noshim, Taivas Tashmish Amita, that can be a Yetzer Hara. To take that and to make that into an act of holiness, that is Elu Chavivin Alayim and Akel, that is the highest form of Avodah. For a person to take a Mida Meguna or a Dover Meguna or a Dover that is infused with bad kavanas and to elevate that's Chaviv and Alayim min Akel. That's why it was the most chashuv thing, because they took the Yetzer Hara and they turned that into a mitzvah. That's something that is extremely special. The Chazal say on the pasuk Vayasu Hatzitz Nezer HaKodesh Zohav Tahor Vayichtavu Olav Michdei Pituchei Chosam Kodesh LaHashem. There was one of the begotten of the Kain Gadol was the tzitz, a war on his forehead, a thing called the tzitz. On the tzitz you're supposed to write Kodesh LaHashem. It's the only garment that has Kodesh LaHashem on it. Why? So Chazal tell us that the tzitz, which is on the Meitzach, so the Meitzach Rabbi Yisai in Yiddishkeit is symbolic of Azus Meitzach. Azus Meitzach. What's Azus Meitzach? Chutzpah. V'al chet shechatan l'fanecha ba'azus Meitzach. That's a chet. Chutzpah. Chutzpah is a terrible thing. Az ponim legehenim, Chazal say. A chutzpahdik mensch is going to go to Gehenim. He's not Bekabel Mushi. He's a Baal chutzpah az ponim legehenim. The fact that they wrote on the tzitz, on the Meitzach, Kodesh LaHashem, that's symbolic, is that you can take sometimes the midah of chutzpah and you can sanctify it and you can make it Kodesh LaHashem. That's why bedafka on the tzitz, which is on the Meitzach, which is supposed to be mechaper for Azus, but there's a higher form, the highest form. And the highest form is Kodesh LaHashem. To take chutzpah and sometimes turn it into mamish l'shem shamayim. Sometimes Rabbi say you have to have chutzpah and you have to stand by your own and you have to do something that's chutzpahdik. It's called azus de kedusha. That's a high form. Now, of course, you have to be careful. But to take chutzpah and to use that for the highest purpose, to use it LaHashem, that's a gewaltige madrega. And Rav Tzadok HaKohen writes, the Mishnah says in the end of Masechta Sotah, the famous Mishnah, that Beikvus the Mashiach chutzpah yazgi, that in the final days we will live in a world that's full of chutzpah. And that's certainly true on its simple level, because today is in fact chutzpah yazgi. But the Kotzker Rebbe says that Li'mais HaMashiach, B'ikvus the Mashiach, chutzpah yazgi, we're going to have chutzpah to survive. because we're going to be under such hostile environment that unless you have a shtickle of chutzpah, you're just going to melt away. So beikavus to the Mashiach chutzpah yazgi means we're going to have to take that midah of azus meitzach, that midah of chutzpah, and turn it to survive. And that Rabbi says the Kodesh La Hashem. So with this Rabbi say, we can say Pshat in a famous Chazal. The Pasuk says that they finished the Mishkan and Moshe Rabbeinu gave them a bracha. And he said, Vayar Moshe es kol ha-molocha v'hinei asu kasher tziva Hashem kein asu vayivorach oisa Moshe. This is a pasuk in parshas Pekudei. Moshe Rabbeinu looked at them and he said, everything was right. Zok Rashi Amar Lahem Yehi Rotzein Shetishra Shechina B'Mais Yedechem. Famous Rashi. Moshe Rabbeinu gave him a bracha. Yehi Rotzein Shetishra Shechina B'Mais Yedechem. The Shechina should reside in your handiwork. So the parshas Rabbi says, and it's certainly the Pshuta Shal Mikra, that now that the Mishkan was ready, it was all done, it was done perfectly. So Moshe Rabbeinu gave them a bracha. The Shekhinah should come down now to the Mishkan. Why do they need a bracha for that? They were promised that. It was part of the deal. Hashem guaranteed it. You build a Mishkan, I'm going to dwell my presence. It's going to be in the Mishkan. So what did Moshe Rabbeinu have to give him a bracha for? They did everything right. Everything's done to the nth degree. So what's the bracha? Yiratzon shetishra shechina b'mais yedechem. So I once saw a pshat that it means more than that. It means more that the shechina would come down into the Mishkan. Yiratzon shetishra shechina b'mais yedechem is that the effect of the Mishkan, the effect of having the Rebbeinu Shalom in your midst, should turn your mundane acts, your own Maisa Yedechem, that should be a kli for Kedusha, a kli for the Shechina. Yiratzon Shetish Shechina b'Maisa Yedechem isn't referring only to the Mishkan, to the Binyan. But if you did this right, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to dwell in your midst, you're going to be different people. Your eating is going to be different. Your sleeping is going to be different. Your business is going to be different. Everything is going to be good because you're going to elevate it. That's the tachlis of the Mishkan. And that, as we see from that Rashi, is the highest madrega. If you can take a mirror, if you can take makeup, if you can beautify yourselves, and that becomes a mitzvah, and that becomes chavim alayim and akol, because that's the apex of what Yiddishkeit is about. Anshe kodesh tiyuli, menshing heilig. I want you to be human beings, but I want you to be holy human beings. That you should become different as a result of that. That's what it's all about. That's what the Rebbeinu, that's what by Chaviv and Alayim and Akol. And that's the bracha of Yiratzon Shetishra Shechina b'Maisa Yedechem. Shamshon Falhurst says, Sefer Vayikra, which we're about to start next week, the first korban in Sefer Vayikra is parshas Oila. Oila Rabbi Say is Kulei Lashem. It's entirely burnt. The end of Sefer Vayikra, the end of Teres Kehanim, the last korban mentioned in Teres Kehanim is Meiser Behema. Meiser Behema is a form of Shlomim. It came out Kulei L'Bailim. Sefer Vayikra begins when it's all Hashem. A korban has to be totally Hashem. Sefer Vayikra ends that you can take something that's a korban, that's kodshim kalim, that's kodshim, but you can enjoy it. You can be nana from it. You're supposed to eat. You're supposed to enjoy it. It's l'bailim. That's what the Mishkan is all about. That's what Teres Kehanim is all about. That's what having a Beis HaMikdash is about. The capacity to elevate our lives above the mundane and to make it into the holy, to take the profane and to make it into holy, to take the maris hatzayvis, to take the mirrors and make it into a kiddush Hashem, to take chutzpah and to do l'shem shamayim, to take our professions and make them into holy things. Ma'aseh yadechem. That's the bracha of Yiratzin Shetir Shechina for Ma'aseh yadechem.
This year was presented by Rabbi Yissocher Frand Shlita.